shall we? Episode 45? I don't know, man. I could just stay here and just vibe all night hanging. I don't know about you. But this is the live recording of episode 45, Epis Sports Radio. Trump's done, man, after this one. The House Democrats release emails that they say Jeffrey Epstein wrote about Donald Trump. How do they come back? How do they respond? We'll break it all down. I can't wait. It's going to be a doozy. Oh, man. What's going to happen? Let's go. Keep showing up.
Wake up! You can't remember where it was. Has this dream stopped?
Broadcasting from the capital of sports, it's the Matty B Show. Right here on Epis Sports Radio. Matty B on Epis Sports Radio.
And swung on and into the air. To deep right center. That ball is high. That is far. It is gone.
Very deep as White hits one deep to left field. Higley back near the wall. It's out of here! And that's with the ball game!
A 60-point game for Cody Burns. They're up by 3. It's over. Eric Decker holds it in. The Jets win in overtime.
Yeah, baby. Let's go, let's go. Oh, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Matty B. Look at this. I'm knocking over the mouse and everything. I'm a little excited for this one. How you doing? Happy Wednesday night. All right, I don't know if it's that happy. It's just a Wednesday night. Let's not get too real about this. All right, but I'm excited to have this episode because holy crap! Little bit of news about Trump and the Epstein files. House Democrats release emails today that say Jeffrey Epstein wrote about Donald Trump to Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll break that all down for you. We'll read some of it. We'll talk about it. I don't know if there's any way coming back for him in this scenario, but you already hear his little House Speaker, whatever the hell you call her. I forget her name. The blonde one. You know her. You've seen her. You've already seen her response and saying that this is a complete distraction because the Republicans are reopening the government and yada yada. You know, come on, man. Needless to say, Epstein, writing emails saying that Trump knew all about it, knew all about the girls. We'll show them to you. We'll talk about it. Other things going on around in sports. Knicks get their ass handed to them tonight. They lose at the hand of the Magic at home. 5 straight wins, second best in the East, and unfortunately, just an absolute dud tonight. You see them shooting really well from 3 over the course of the last 5 games, over 40%. Tonight, I don't know what they ended up with, but certainly through the first half, I think they were shooting like 31%. Had missed like 8 threes at one point, and they just didn't look like themselves. Didn't have it tonight. That's fine. These things happen. You move on. But otherwise, pretty good start to the year. NFL, Brian Daboll getting fired by the New York Giants. Obviously, a lot of speculation there. What does this mean for their future? What does it mean for the Giants now? Especially after that little bit of hope, right? That little bit of hope with Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo, really showing up and creating a big scene. And next thing you know, big flop. Scatterboo goes down on injury. They lose Malik Neighbors early on in the year prior to that. Dart, now dealing with his injuries. Jameis Winston getting the start coming up in this game. I do have some audio from Winston and his, pregame or midweek presser, and of course, typical Jameis Winston, response. Gotta love it. Gotta love the guy. But I'm actually happy for him that he's getting his start this week. You see what they could do there. Jets, I don't know. What do you say after the trades? They got a nice haul. I talked a little bit about it with my buddy Israel the other night when I had interviewed him on his marathon success. I asked him a little later in the show, and it's a pretty good trade overall. It's just unfortunate to where the direction his team has been. You wonder, will there be a change overall in management? You like to think Glenn, knows what he's doing, but there's just no result to back off of, especially here now. And, we'll see. We'll see going forward, what happens with this team as well. It's just the sad state of affairs for New York football. Even the Bills, not looking like the Bills of past. A lot of, question marks there. So they're after all, they are the real New York team. But I do want to get into these Epstein files. It's big. What's up, Nasty? How you doing, bro? Huge news. Me and my buddy have been talking about it back and forth via voice text all day. I'm sure you've heard about it by now. If you didn't, go take a look. This is pretty big. It doesn't get much bigger than this, especially with everything that's going on, state of politics. The administration, now flirting with the idea of basically these stimulus checks. I heard today, talk about the Democrats trying to create distraction. Republicans, just doing whatever it is they can to appease the public. Now Trump all of a sudden is, about facing and focusing more about affordable groceries, things like that. Pulling a Mamdani over here, even though he's so outspoken against the quote-unquote communist that he does call Zoran. And then this news comes out. House Democrats released these emails between Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and, I'll show you, just for it. I'll pull it up for you guys, just for you to see, exactly what I'm talking about here, if you haven't heard, because this is it. Where do we go from here? Because the information's coming out. Now that, the government is reopening, Democrats, are, I believe, one vote away, right? And that vote is going to be taking place, and we are going to be looking at more information released about these Epstein files. So, and this is just the beginning of it. All right, this is just the beginning. All right, might have to, okay. I think I could read this from here. I'm not even saying, I think for you guys it should be good. I hope it's good, because I could see it, but even for me it's a little small, and I'm wondering maybe if I should make this font just slightly bigger for you. All right, hold on. In real time, folks. Real time editing right now. I think that will be good. Okay. You let me know if anybody's here with us live. Nasty, if you can see, you let me know about if that's a little hard to see. All right. High importance of this email from Jeffrey Epstein to G-Max. I love that's her name, by the way. To G-Max. April 2nd at 14:25. All right. Sent from Jeffrey Epstein. High importance. I have been thinking about that. Oh, the original message was, I have been thinking about that. But this message itself, no subject, goes right to it. I want you to realize that dog hasn't, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. All right, one more time. I know I stumbled a little bit, all right, because he threw the two that's at that. All right, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Very small, but to the point. It's essentially saying that Trump has partaked in whatever the hell was going on there. All right. He's literally spent hours with victims there, present, knowingly. I mean, listen, outside of having physical proof, imagery, things like that, I mean, that is Epstein himself saying to Maxwell that Trump was fully aware of what's going on. And, whether or not he's just there inside the residence and not partaking in whatever it is going on, not being, the rapist or the pedophile that he is. At the very least, he was aware of it. And that in itself, is that not a crime? Is that not an issue? I believe so. Last time I checked, I don't know about you. All right, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's the first one we're looking at here tonight. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. I know it's not, full paragraph. It's not in super, crazy detail. You see later on in the sentence here, he has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm not sure what the whole police chief, etc. means. And then he says, I'm 75% there. That's interesting. So at the time, April 2nd, 2011. Wow, 2011, huh? I was a year out of high school. I was into college right there. That's when that was going on. It's wild times. Just to think that while being in college, that was currently this was like he was writing this email. That's nuts. Interesting though. What does that mean? The 75% there. Not really sure on that. That's a little fuzzy, right? There's something that, is he trying to prove something that he was closing in on, something, or is he clearly trying to accomplish something? What is it that he was 3/4 of the way there? I would assume that's what that means. Interesting. All right. So the end there is a little fuzzy in that email, but again, straight to the point. Saying that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him specifically. I don't know, man. A little hard to come back on that one. All right, next one up. This one sent 2015 from Michael Wolf, and then part of his blacked out to Jeffrey Epstein. Said gvacation@gmail.com. All right, again, high of importance. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Wow. Kudos, I gotta say, called him out there, really put him on the spot towards the end of that. All right, that is okay. On Tuesday, December 15th, 2015 at 8 p.m., Michael Wolff wrote, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you either on air or in scrum afterwards. Interesting. And again, that was to Jeffrey. That was back in 2015. Interesting. Yeah. Man, that other, I'll go back to it just one more time, though, because I even though I repeated the other one as well. That's big, man. I thought the first email was bad that we were looking at, but this is, Michael Wolff calling him out there. Big time. I mean, just the way he starts it off. I think you should let him hang himself, just straight up. Oh, let him. It tells me that Michael knew. They knew. They were well aware. This was not like something that was, just out far-fetched, that, he had no involvement. I mean, the way these guys are talking, it's like, oh yeah, of course Trump knew. What do you mean? We all knew. Like that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here. And I tell me otherwise. I don't know. We've seen the pictures, with Trump and Epstein hanging out. That's out there, right? Let's just not ignore that, And now you're starting to see these emails come out, and there's more. There's much more. Oh, I'm sure there's more. And listen, House Democrats good on their word for releasing this. Republicans can say all they want to try and hide this. To try and poo-poo this and say, oh, there's no merit. No. Sorry. The receipts are there. Is really not much more, and all right, again, what, you don't have Trump in a room with a minor, molesting her. Okay, do they have that? Is that something that's there? Is that something that's going to come about? Probably not ever, even if it was, but who knows? Are these emails enough? We're getting there, I mean, we know, Jeffrey Epstein, was rightfully convicted of all this, right? So, or at least, accused of, everything in this, to this degree, I think Trump's involvement is starting to be more undeniable, and they're clearly doing whatever they can to distract the public of it, the White House demolition, is part of it as well, I'm sure. And, it's just constant news. You've seen, the rhetoric from this administration the second they took office. The second that transition took place, it was like complete about face about the Epstein files. Whereas it was a promise that they would release it, that they would talk about it, when you got here. Yeah, it's just as good as any other politician, promising false hope, during the campaign and then not delivering when they're there in office. Yeah, and this is what we're seeing. Yeah. Next one up. So you got G vacation. That's Jeffrey Epstein. January 31st, 2019. To Michael Wolff. All right. Victim, Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never remember ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So, right then and there, he's basically saying that that there was dialogue between Trump and Ghislaine and asked her to stop whatever her involvement was at the time. Not necessarily pointing to Trump itself, kind of like paints Trump as the good guy here in this small little, basically 2-sentence email. I'm assuming when they have the blackout there, I'm kind of confused on that. Why certain parts of these emails are blacked out. The Michael Wolff, I'm assuming that's his email information, so they just don't want to put that out there. Obviously, it doesn't matter, to have Jeffrey's email out there anymore. But for Michael Wolff, they're still trying to hide that there. So okay, I got that. Victim, is that the victim's name? Or like, what is that like? Or is that just the headline start of this email? Like, I'm kind of confused on that. And then you have this long blackout after Mar-a-Lago, and prior to when he says Trump said he asked me to resign. So that seems like a big, little blackout there. Very important blackout, I would say. Again, I don't know. We're just going based off of what this is. Being released, and these are the screenshots. It looks like of reported by NBC News. Emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. All right, that was that one. Now we have more here. This is just a little bit of breakdown. That was my little breakdown of it. Let's see. This was a New York Times breakdown of what we were looking at. All right. In a trove of emails released on Wednesday, House Democrats highlighted 3 between Epstein and his associates. Those were the 3 that we just went over, suggesting that Trump might have been more aware of Epstein's conduct than he was publicly acknowledged. And that's definitely, I think, clear, or is appearing as clear in those emails that we just went over. Epstein was emerging from his legal troubles and trying to stave off further consequences. The tabloids had spotted him out and about trying to return to his social circles. Epstein was sensitive to what was being said about him, emailing with Ghislaine Maxwell and emailing his employees about negative press coverage. Meanwhile, Trump, and then a star on The Apprentice, was talking about running for president. During the presidential campaign, Epstein remained mostly in the background despite curiosity about his ties to Trump. Epstein was dealing with fallout from his conduct, but still continued to socialize with notable people. Among them was the journalist Michael Wolff, who went on to write a biography of Trump. By January 2019, Trump was in the White House, and Epstein was back in the news. Epstein's schedules showed he had continued to meet with Wolff, who had said he sat in on some unreleased recorded interviews that Steve Bannon, a former Trump advisor, had conducted with Epstein. Soon after this email exchange, the Justice Department said it was investigating how Epstein's plea deal had been handled. All right. So again, not anything super groundbreaking in terms of what we already speculated, but more furthering the validation that, Trump, at the very least, was well aware, and that he, of what was going on. And definitely, hinting at him, essentially partaking in whatever, was going on, whether he could be potentially, a rapist here, pedophile, like, himself. That's clearly on the table. We need to acknowledge this, and, certainly, somebody that was, allowed this to continue, and somebody of our stature that is now, the president of the United States making the calls, how can you trust somebody that's willing to let something of that magnitude go on? I don't get it. I don't understand it, amongst other things. obviously, in terms of how he's handled this whole immigration issue. And now this. Where do you go from here? Is your $2,000, quote unquote stimulus check some sort of tariff relief that, they're now talking about? Is that going to make you forget about the Epstein files? Is that going to make you just, believe in the all-American way? So they, continue to push on you? I don't know, man. I don't know. I may not know everything. I may not have all the answers, but there's one thing that I feel right about, and it's certainly not this administration, and how they want to conduct themselves and do these things. And I'm sorry, it's just not the type of leaders I want, to lead this nation and foreign affairs. I mean, you're talking. Trump's now wanting to pardon Netanyahu. I mean, the guy is literally responsible for a whole genocide as we speak, actively. On top of that, we have funded their military while people here struggle to feed their kids. Pouring millions and millions of dollars into their own military, into their own government, essentially supporting a genocide. And we got advertisements up on Hulu and YouTube, and I believe on YouTube. Maybe not. Sorry, YouTube. But definitely Hulu. I've seen on other platforms as well. What are we doing here? This is not a time to be a proud American, Maybe for a select few, but certainly not, for me. My wife has a cultural background that resides in China, doesn't begin here. If it wasn't for immigrants, America would not be, what it is. And here we are. I mean, this society, this life, everything is built on immigrants. America has no culture. The culture is the immigrant nation that makes of it. American culture is hamburgers and hot dogs, man. Let's get, in NASCAR. Get over it. Yeah, we got, good old sports like the American pastime, baseball, basketball, football. And I love them so, no doubt. But take a look around. Who is the majority of the people playing these games? Truthfully, look across all sports. You're seeing it more and more in the NBA. Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Wembanyama. Baseball, Shohei Ohtani. All right, you're seeing a huge Japanese upcoming in the league right now. Even a couple more players being posted this winter and will be coming over and making an impact. Yamamoto, Sasaki, Kodai Senga on the Mets. Huge amount of players from the DR, Colombia, Puerto Rico. Hockey. It's a bunch of Canadians, man. It always was, always will be, you know. Yeah, we got some great American players, but, you know, Canadians, Europeans. So, you know, race and things like that, immigrants, you know, lives down to its core only matter when it's for your entertainment, when it's good for you. We're going to side-eye one of the, most controversial cases ever in the history of, in U.S. history ever, you know, in regards to this whole Epstein file case. If it wasn't so big, then what's his name? Why did Kash Patel, you know, duck these questions so far? I'll play that clip for you guys as well, because he was killing me. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel gets in a heated argument with Republican Eric Swalwell over Jeffrey and Epstein files. This is 7 weeks ago. Posted by Newsweek here. I got it for you guys. Check this out. All right, this is a good one.
Ever tell Donald Trump his name is in the files?
I have never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein files.
Did you ever tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
The Attorney General and I have had numerous discussions about the entirety of the Epstein files and the reviews conducted by our team.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
And we have released where President Trump's name is in the Epstein files.
It's a simple question. Did you tell the Attorney General that the President's name is in the Epstein files?
During many conversations that the Attorney General and I have had on the matter of Epstein, we have reviewed.
The question is simple.
Who
did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out?
Yes or no?
Use the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No? A, B, C,
Director,
D, E, F?
it sounds like you don't want to tell us. Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files?
Why don't you try serving your
Director,
constituency by focusing on reducing violent crime in this country and the number of pedophiles that are legally harbored in your sanctuary cities in California? I'll work with you on that.
Regular order, Mr. Chairman.
Director,
I'm the lawless gentleman from California.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
The question has been asked and answered.
You've not answered
No,
it, and
it
we will
wasn't.
take your evasiveness as a consciousness of guilt.
Right.
Did you ever tell
Thank
Donald Trump
you.
his name is in the files?
Yeah, and that's the key thing. I'll take your evasiveness as a consciousness of guilt, and great job from Republican Eric Swalwell. And again, this is the case in which Republicans even are, you know, on this side. I mean, this is getting out of hand. All right, it's not even like all Republicans are just like, okay, you know, we're all right with this. Let's look the other way. You know, Kash Patel put on notice right there, and you know he clearly tiptoed around it. You know, and again, we have to assume if you can't answer the simple question that you are clearly hiding something. I'm sorry, we just can't get past that point. Okay. You're clearly hiding something, and it's just so evident. And, you know, the more and more information we get, you know, more it becomes a bit clearer that, you know, clearly there's some sort of level of involvement that's, you know, definitely criminal for Trump. You know, whether it just being him being an accomplice in all of this, because, you know, the fact that he actually just knew, right? I mean, that in itself is a problem. You know, so, you know, just absolutely crazy groundbreaking news to start the day. And it's gonna, it's just ongoing. It's just gonna get crazier as more information does get released, and who knows. Who knows if anything will ever come of it? Who knows if there'll ever be enough to maybe take Trump out of office? But I'm sorry, man. For those that may have voted for Trump, and I guess you can surmise by now that I did not. I mean, is this really what you wanted? For America? I mean, we're supporting a genocide. Picking up legal citizens off the street and stripping them from their kids and wives, and without due process, without anything, and just left stranded in a cell for days until they finally get released off of, because there was no basis to arrest them in the beginning. We're sending the National Guards into cities for what? For what exactly? For people standing up, for their beliefs? For people exercising their natural, given right of freedom of speech? I don't know. We're not making things any better economically. Groceries are are skyrocketing. The cost of living not getting any better, nationwide. And on top of that, we're doing irreversible damage, to our good old planet Earth. I mean, literally, with this, while this is all going on, they were able to pass a law that, means they could start, building a pipeline through, I believe it was Alaska, through parts of, national parks that, were otherwise untouched. We're getting into territories that, we really, tried avoiding. That, the Biden administration, other administrations in the past have helped, prevent these things from happening. And now we're already at a tipping point in terms of climate change, which this administration refuses to acknowledge. And that's ever more evident with this move here, where our national parks are just in danger. And all of them, as a matter of fact. As Trump sees it, he'd rather turn it into a tourist, casino attraction, with, food chains and things like that, here. Have a McDouble, while you take a look at Yosemite. I mean, that's Trump's America, man. There's parts of this world that should be left wild, and this guy is going out to ruin it. And the environmental impact it's going to have does not or will outweigh the economic impact he is trying to make. And somewhere down the line, I believe that the economic impact won't be even worth it either, because all this administration seems to do is look out for the 1%, as opposed to looking at looking out for the middle class or the lower class people. And this idea of this $2,000 tariff check that he's flirting around now, which I'm sure he's going to deliver on that. much like we've seen from the Biden administration with the stimulus checks and all that, throughout the COVID years. Bit of a distraction, bit of a like, okay, well, that's nice, thank you for that. I never feel good about that. It always makes me feel like, okay, yeah, there's clearly something else going on, because, you have to go to the lengths of, giving us a nice little, $2,000 check. I don't even remember how much I received in the previous stimulus checks that we've gotten there during the COVID years. It may have been upwards of that. I don't think it was, definitely not any more than 2,000. But I have a feeling it was a little bit less. Nonetheless, again, pennies in comparison to what we deal with, on a month-to-month basis. Just being able to live, especially for people that live in New York as well. Or in any of the big, cities in which cost of living high, L.A., New York, California in general, in a lot of places. Maybe not the same in different areas in the country, but I'm sure that, they are feeling it too. Farmers have felt it. He's talking about, giving payments to his farmers and all that, and that's nice. But you've completely decimated the industry by, taking over all these farms. Not to mention buying up land for solar, not for solar, yes, for these data centers using, controlled by solar panel and all that. It's, as much as I'm down for solar power, there's other ways that to do it that would prevent buying up all this farmland across America. These data centers that we're seeing, pop up all over America as well, that are, inherently having a huge environmental impact, not only just on the animals and the biodiversity around them, but the humans that reside around these data centers as well. I believe there was one in Ohio. Let me check real quick on that. I believe that was the one that I was looking at. That was, I seen some interview where they were in somebody's home near a data center, and they were showing the quality of the water coming out of their sink faucet, and how it was practically brown, and that's what they were dealing with, and like there's no way to get around it. Oh yeah, Ohio has numerous data centers, with Columbus as the leading market, followed by Cleveland and Cincinnati. Now, I don't know where this specific one that I was watching was, but they have, as you can see, multiple data centers. It is hurting these areas. It is the environmental impact, and again, not only affects the animals, the biodiversity around that geographical area, but it's affecting the humans as well. The noise pollution, the light pollution, they say, at night, everything about it. I'm going down a rabbit hole of all this. I know it's getting a little bit late for me. But this is all something that this administration is approving, is doing. It's not just immigration. It's not, just cost of living, and the cost of groceries. There's just so much more damage being done that, the common folk is just is too wrapped up to care about. And that's a shame. That's a shame. And I hate to see it. And me having 4 kids and I'm just genuinely worried for their future and what's to come and what will be left for their future. In the age of AI, who knows? You know? But that's enough. That's enough for the good old Trumper. All right. I gave him too much time tonight. Haven't gotten too political lately on the show, so I was due for one. So I'm happy I did it. All right. Because I had to get it out of my system. Listen, these emails are huge. These are huge stuff. We needed to talk. I needed to talk about it. I didn't have to talk about it. I just wanted to talk about it. So I did. Oh, yeah. All right. Gonna be getting out of here a little soon, but let's talk a little bit of something else. Let's switch the topics. Let's talk a little sports. All right. Let's get a little music here. Let's vibe out. It is Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope I didn't kill you with the Trump stuff. I hope I didn't bring it down. It's a little sour. I know. We gotta find the good. We gotta find the laughs. Because at the end of the day, man, we're all just living in this crazy simulation, right? So we gotta enjoy it. We gotta breathe. We gotta laugh a little. What a time to be alive. All right. All right. Something that was making me laugh is good old Scott Boras. If you know him, if you know the name, you know this is gonna get good. Scott Boras is big time agent in baseball, all right. Signs all the big names, all the big players, and has been in control of my boy Pete Alonso, the polar bear Pete, who is currently a free agent, opting out of his contract and has hit the road, Jack, one more time. Good old Pete Alonso. I'll pull up his stats real quick here because I'm a little interested. But he had a hell of a year despite the Mets falling short on the final day of the 2025 season. All right. 624 at-bats, 87 runs, 170 hits, 38 home runs, 126 RBI, 1 stolen base, which is kind of funny, 272 average OBP of 347, and an OPS of 871, besting his career. His career OPS is 857 in the regular season. OBP 347 this year, 341 career. Average 272 regular season this year, 253 career regular season. So, arguably one of his best years as Pete now turns, how old is he? Where's his info? He debuted back in 2019. How old is good old Pete? Doesn't really matter. 1994. All right, 1994, so he's 31. All right. Or is he? Oh, he's about to turn 31. Yeah, December 7th. Okay, so Pete's birthday's coming up. Still pretty much right there in his prime. A good time to re-sign to, albeit, I'll happily give him 5-6 years, honestly. I think he's worth it. You're not going to get 5-6 years of production, from this guy. You're just not. Like, that's not where you're getting here. But you get 2-3 more years. 2-3 more years of this guy banging 30-plus homers a year. Definitely, I would say probably 100 per year. Man, there might be one year where he might fall short. Could be in the last year. Maybe it could be next year. I don't know. But I would still think, 30 home run guy. 272, man, that's hard for him to duplicate because I just, I don't see that. He actually really ended up really well this year with the average. I didn't expect that out of him. He was sitting in that low 200s for quite a while to jump from like the 220s up to the 250s and then really like sustainably finish out hard there and finish off 272. That's pretty good for him, I gotta say. And again, career average 253 hitter. So, he's somewhere in that range of that 220, 250, guy. And that's where I really do expect him to be. That's why I say, with 126 RBI this year, that number's probably going to come down a little bit. He's always a home run type guy to me, but I think that's what was good about his game this year is that he kind of switched that up. We could talk stats all day about it. The main point I want to segue into this whole thing is because Scott Boras, my man Pots and Pans over here, getting funny on a little presser. He was questioned about Pete. This is via SNY. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's SNY questioning him. This video that I'm playing right now is from Yahoo Sports. Shout out to Yahoo Sports. But Scott Boras questioned, and he gets a little funny with his words. Or it gets a little cute. So I just thought it was something worth watching. Check it out.
I think Pete, at this point in his career, he's about winning, no doubt. Had that question a lot. There's no doubt that Pete's pursuers are primed to pay the power piper. Pete picked the perfect period to play preeminently at a primary position. A playoff parched plethora will pounce to participate in the polar plunge. I think Pete, at this point in his career, he's about winning, no doubt.
I'll play it one more time.
Had that question a lot. There's no doubt that Pete's pursuers are primed to pay the power piper. Pete picked the perfect period to play preeminently at a primary position. A playoff parched plethora will pounce to participate in the polar plunge.
Right. All right, that's enough of Boris right there. Very cute. And I'll give him credit because he's clearly not reading off everything. So to do that, on the fly and actually, rhyme that with all the P's, all the words starting with P's right there. I'll give him a little credit. It's pretty good. I don't know if he rehearsed that. Probably did a little bit. It looked like the polar plunge part came, off the cuff, but I don't know. Not bad from Scott Boras on there. Cute, very cute. Listen, this guy is probably feeling good with the whole Pete situation right now. And I would agree. The Mets gave him an opportunity to gamble on himself yet again because he, did that years ago. It didn't necessarily pay off. Obviously, going into this past season, he hit free agency and there wasn't a market for him. Boras was not, he may have been talking confident, but at the end of the day, it was under false pretenses. And it's because he just did not have a good year. Not as good as he did this year. And it was clearly not much of a market. You know, it was believed that Toronto was, you know, in on him. But whatever they were offering clearly wasn't good enough because Pete did not take it. I think at Pete's core, he wanted to be a New York Met. And I still think he does. I'm hearing rumors right now that the Yankees are high on Pete. You know, now all of a sudden, you know, Pete has a 272 year. And I really think the average matters. I do. I really do. Because, you know, let's take a look. I really don't think it was much of a difference. You know, he had 38 home runs last year. And let's see what he had. Now, I don't want to see there. I want to see last year, people. There you go. All right, beautiful. I'll show you guys right here, too. Let's go pull that up for you so you see what I'm checking out over here. All right, 2024 stats right there. You have 2024, 2025 up. By the way, just talk about being an Iron Man type player. That's also another reason. This guy takes the field. He plays. He don't get injured. You go back to 2021, Pete's out there. Actually, he's always out there because 2020 was the pandemic year. He played 57 games. It was a shortened year. You go back to 2019, 161 games. The guy doesn't miss. The last 2 years, he's played every single game. Pete has played 162 games. 2024 and 2025. So that in itself, the value is for me, is up. You got to feel good about that. Now, we knew that going into the 2024 season, and that didn't necessarily do him any favors in the free agency. Why, right? Well, going into the 2025 season. And why is that? You know, he had 4 more runs, hits, that's where it drops. 146 hits in 2024, 170 in 2025. Doubles, 10 less in 2024. Home runs was just about the same, 34 in 2024, 38 in 2025. And, you know, you look back the 2 previous years, 46 in 2023. And I think that was like a lot of the concern because, you know, he really went off in the 22, 23 years with the homers. You know, 40 home runs back in 2022, 46 back in 2023. And, you know, he was looking like this powerhouse guy. But even then, you know, yeah, he had 46 home runs back in 2023. But it was with an average of 217. So that means he was just truly an all-or-nothing guy. You know, in 2025, his OPS was 49 points better. In 2025, as opposed to 2023, when he hit 46 home runs. He had 8 less home runs this year, and yet his OPS was 49 points better. Yeah, I mean, you know, like, how much else do you want to look at that? That to me, you know, the slugging was similar. That makes sense. But the slugging was actually still better in 2025 than 2023. The slugging was 524 in 25 and 504 in 23. Those extra hits matter, man. That average comes into play. That matters. We were so blindsided in 2023 going into that 2024. And Pete has, again, a good year. 34 home runs, 2024, 88 RBIs, though. So at 88 RBIs, 70 walks, 172 strikeouts, which was the second most in his career. Yeah, that's a lot. And so, he came out 2025. Mets get him on a pretty good deal. And he has this excellent year. That's 272, the most he's ever done. The highest average he's ever had. You go back to 2022 when he had an average of 271. So one tick higher. And prior to that, his third highest was a 262 back in 2021. So he has his best year average-wise. Is the best year slugging? Yeah. No. Not the best year slugging. Best year slugging and OPS was actually that first year, 2019. He really came out strong in that 2019 year. Struck out a whole hell of a lot in that year, though. 183 times. My God. 183 times. Had a 260 average, though. But he was hitting. That was about the only way you were getting Pete out in 2019. Was via the strikeout. Because otherwise, he had the 53 home runs, 120 RBIs. I mean, just absurd, That was a rookie year for the ages. That was shit, man. That might be one of the best rookie campaigns. Well, no, Cal Riley, right? Was Cal Riley a rookie? No. I gotta check because that has to be one of the best rookie campaigns. I'm sorry. That is phenomenal. Let's see. No, not Cal Riley. Cal Riley's been around. Bug in there. Who was I thinking about? It's not Cal Riley. Obviously, Cal Riley, 60 home runs this year, having a great year. Not a rookie, though. Obviously, been in the league for 5 years now. Aaron Judge, what was his rookie campaign? I might have to do a whole segment on this about Pete having the best rookie campaign ever, because it's really absurd to hit 50-plus home runs in your rookie campaign. I don't know how that happens. Let's see how much 52 Judge had in 2017. So he started in 2016, but only played 27 games. So I believe he was still considered a rookie in the 2017 season, 52. And Pete had what? Pete had 53. I think that was the most ever. Has to be, right? Yeah, it is Pete. Yeah, I think Pete's got to be one of the greatest seasons. Mark McGwire had the third best with 49 homers back in 1987. Now, let's check Mark's stats here. So Mark came in the league in 1986, but only played those 18 games. His first full season as a rook was 1987, and Mark ended up with 49 home runs, 118 RBI. Batting average was 289. Really solid there. I think that's definitely higher than Pete's, because Pete was pretty low. Yeah, Pete was 260. So that's 29 points ahead of Pete there. And let's see, slugging. Yeah, a 618 slugging. Holy crap. Yeah, that's better than Pete's. And the OPS for Pete was 941. Wow. Sorry, Mark McGuire's was 987. So Mark, oh man, that's a tough one, man. I mean, like, Pete only hit a couple of more home runs than the guy, but he did beat him out in slugging and OPS. On base percentage, 358 for Pete. Yeah, and 370 for Mark. I think Mark gets it, man. 131 strikeouts for Mark. By the way, like 131 strikeouts, we used to, shit on a lot of the early players in this day and age, in the last decade, really, about strikeouts. If they go over like 100 strikeouts. 131 strikeouts for Mark back in 1987. Like, guys were clearly striking out back then. All right. I know the numbers are quite higher now, but like Pete only had 127 strikeouts in 2021. Let's be real. But yeah, that's wild. 183. Pete had 183 strikeouts. Yeah, way more. That's wild. In his rookie year compared to Mark McGwire, but I don't know. That's an interesting debate. Who had the best rookie season of all time? And I'm sure there's a couple other candidates that you could throw in there that are just not like power hitters, but that hit for like great average, had like great OBP, OPS. But Pete's up there. Pete's up there in the conversation. Judge too. We could definitely throw Judgy in there. Yeah, because he was just a tick off of him. All right, 52 home runs. Yeah. Tired. Hey. Sorry, it's what happens when you work all day and just tired. What was the average for 284? 284 for Judge. So I would almost argue that Judge probably had the better season. The numbers are up there. 627 slugging. What was Mark's again? Oh, yeah. Judgy might beat him. That's a very good debate. I have to look more into this and actually debate this one more time on the show. Maybe even throw like an edited clip out there. But that would be a good one to contemplate there, because there's enough argument on both sides. So, gotta check that out. Well, a lot else going on in sports, obviously. Basketball, the gambling is rampant. Baseball, gambling, rampant. Class A, banned from baseball, lifetime. This guy, throwing away his life and his career over, what, a whopping 50, 60 grand, whatever. Excuse me, man. It's getting to that time for me, 11:30. A whopping 50 grand just for what? For nothing. To throw everything away, to go to, facing up to 65 years in jail, getting caught up with the mafia, crazy stuff. Basketball, same thing. And again, at least football's been good. Not for New York, but football's been generally good. A lot going on there. New England Patriots all of a sudden look like they might be a Super Bowl team. The Colts continue to do their thing. Chiefs are still hanging around somehow. Phillies, sorry, I don't think they got the Super Bowl pedigree that they did last year. Just so much to break down. I wish I had all the energy for it. Because I'm just tapped out, man. I can feel it. And I wanna do you guys justice and be right for you. Alright. I gotta give you my all, but the reality is that Epis gotta get the hell out of here. Because I gotta be up at work and be at work at 7 a.m. in the morning. And I've had one hell of a day as is. And I had fun talking to you. Here on Twitch. Sorry for those that are watching in post. Could not go live on YouTube. Did not go live on TikTok tonight. But we will be back. We will be back on those platforms as usual. This show, obviously available to you on YouTube and Twitch. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe. Do whatever you can to keep the channel growing. We appreciate you. And as always, keep showing up. Until next time, folks. It's your boy Matty B, Epis Sports Radio. Have a good night.
Wake up! You can't remember where it was. Has this dream stopped?
Hope you find some kind of peace of mind.
All right, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful night. And hopefully you have a great rest of your week. Thursday, Friday, we're almost there, people. Keep showing up as always. Keep it positive. I love you. Until next time. Keep showing up.